Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
And the Murtaugh to his Riggs, Jake.
gives you sports betting tips. I am Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. You can follow my friend Jake on Twitter at myfriend_Jake. Today is Saturday, March 5th, 2022, and this episode covers today's best college basketball bets. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model that predicts what the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C pick for each of the games not covered in this episode, is available in the Google Sheet linked in the show's description. A picks are the ones I love, B picks are the ones I like, and C picks are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say the model will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, this is usually the part of the show where I talk about how the model did yesterday. We are again recording the night before here, so if you're still up late on this Friday evening, here you'll get Saturday's picks the night before. If not, you're watching this on Saturday morning, so we have no idea how Friday has done. Thursday went well for the model, so that was exciting. Quick programming update. Next week, we will do our normal recorded episode, but we're going to do 7 days. We can do all 7 days next week. Yes, that includes a Sunday episode where we will break down all of the Sunday conference championship games. And now, I wanted to take Monday off. I was like, hey, if we're going to do 7 episodes, I want to take Monday off. You know, the ink on the bracket won't even be dry yet. But Jake wanted to do a bracket episode, and he's talking to doing one and here's the catch, if we can get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers by the time the bracket's released. So if you aren't already, please hit that subscribe button, share with others, get your friends to sub, even if they don't like sports, get them to sub and turn off notifications, whatever you got to do, right? Y'all have been fantastic. The show has grown at an incredible rate. Y'all are truly amazing. And so if you can help us reach that goal by Selection Sunday, we'll do a special bracket episode the Monday after the bracket is released. So a little incentive there to help us get to that milestone. Jake, what's one thing we should know before we get into Saturday's slate?
So, Saturday, that's the final day of the regular season. That it's loaded, absolutely loaded. I don't know if your wife or significant other, husband, whatever, is trying to get you to do something on Saturday. Don't blow them off. Whatever, tell them I told you so, and that's what you're doing, because there's nothing but great basketball on from the time it starts till way late at night. So that's what you should spend your time doing, and that's what I'm planning on doing. So that's
All
what
right.
we do.
All right, I like it. Yeah, lots of games to talk about. We're going to start us off here early on in the day, 11 a.m. Central Time. Arkansas is playing at Tennessee. I've got an under pick here for you. I've got under 140. The model thinks it should be 138. Both teams have been under my numbers for the season. Both teams are just so good defensively. I think 140 is too much just from an eyeball standpoint. The model agrees. But I will say, hold on to your hats, people, because you're not going to hear me praise defenses much more for the rest of this episode. Jake, Tennessee is a 6-point home favorite. Can they get the job done, and can they get it done by more than 6?
Yeah, I think they do. Arkansas has been flirting with disaster with their last couple games, with Kentucky by 2 and LSU by 1. I think they're going to do it because both those are at home. Tennessee is such a better offensive team at home. It's night and day. They haven't lost in Thompson Bowling all year. They can be absolutely nasty defensively, like anywhere, but especially at home. They force almost 20 turnovers a game, which is ridiculous. And the way the pressure guards you have with Chandler and Ziegler can just get in your grill and make it hard to do anything. And the way Josiah Jordan-James is playing currently, this Tennessee team at home is deadly. This is going to be the last time, unfortunately, we're able to say that. So it worries me for the rest of the year, because they don't travel too well. But right now, this is good. This is a big game in terms of standings because it lets you avoid Auburn with a win. Whoever wins gets to avoid Auburn until the championship, and whoever loses is grabbing that 4th place and seeing them early. But the free throw shooting is going to be big here. Both teams are hitting them very well. I think Tennessee is shooting closer to 80% at home. They're going to get that. They're going to hit more threes because, in that previous matchup, they could not have shot anywhere. So they shot 16% from beyond the arc and made 4 less than their average. They averaged close to 10, 9.9 to be exact, at home. So I think that's going to be vastly different, and that's going to easily make up the points because they scored 48 on the road. I think they get much closer to 60, if not just above 60, and get this easy cover, or not easy cover, but it'll be difficult. But I think they'll get it done. It's like JD Note was in foul trouble the entire game last time, and I think you'll see a lot of repeat of that with how how Tennessee plays defense is going to make it struggle on him.
Yeah, and that last game was an easy under. I don't expect this under to be quite so easy as that one was. I think Tennessee will score some more points, but that one was you had tons of points to spare on that one. And so, kind of like you said, if Note is in that same foul trouble that he was that last game, and Tennessee could hit anything, they should be able to win this one. And like you said, the way they're shooting free throws helps them get it done. It's interesting. These are two teams. There's a few others like this that when they match up, it's so interesting because they're so good at home versus the road. And so it's like where the matchup is matters a little bit more. Not to say that home court doesn't matter for all teams, but some of those small schools up in the Northeast, short bus rides, smaller crowds. I mean, you can kind of get away with giving maybe a 2-point home court advantage there. And in some of these situations like this, maybe 4 is more appropriate. And so you're talking about a difference between a 4-point swing in some of those games versus, and something like this might be more like an 8-point swing between home and road.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting sometimes when you get these teams that are so contrasted there with their home and road abilities. Right after that, 11:30 a.m. Central Time, Davidson is going to travel to Dayton and play. The model has an over pick here, over 131. Thinks it should be closer to 134 and a half, so almost a 3.5 point difference. Dayton has been an under team this year, but the number is way too low in my opinion. Davidson has a below average defense, but a fantastic offense. And so with regards to that, I just don't see any way that this number doesn't get up into the 130s. They just don't stop teams very well, but goodness, can they score? Jake, the question for you, can they score enough to get a road win or at least keep it close, or does Dayton cover the 3.5?
Yeah, I think Davidson gets the. I think they get the road win, to be honest. But I think they'll cover this game. I think it'll be a very close game, like you said. Dayton is a defensive team this year. There are struggles on offense. Davidson is an incredible offense and struggles a little bit on defense. I think they do just enough here with free throw shooting and their 3-point shooting and all that. And they've got, and it's not just one guy like you see at some of these smaller schools. They are a very balanced team. They've got 2 or 3 really good guards. They got a good big guy. So they're really tough to guard. And Dayton has been coming off a heartbreaking loss with or no, they didn't lose. They won. They won on that buzzer beater inbounds play. But they've really been playing on the edge here, and I don't think they've got enough offense to get this one done. They just need to. Davis is going to put the pressure on them, and they just won't have it. Plus, Davidson really wants this. This gets them the 1 seed with a win. They lock it up, win the regular season title. If they lose, they've got a chance of dropping to second. But if you can get it, you want to put it away.
Yep, makes a lot of sense there. Moving on to 3 p.m. Central, Texas at Kansas. Kansas struggling here of late, lost at TCU, and then in the revenge game at home, didn't sniff the cover. They're a 6.5 point favorite at home against a Longhorn team that we've talked a lot about this season, how good they are defensively at home, but how they struggle a little bit more defensively on the road. So with that in mind, I'm thinking over 137 and a half. The model thinks it should be close to 140. Kansas has been an over team on the season. They have a fantastic offense, and as we saw in that game here recently against TCU, their defense sometimes doesn't show up. And so assuming that holds true, I like this to get into the 140s. Jake, can Kansas get things right before going into the conference tournament, or does Texas finally get a good road victory in one that I don't think they've had really a good road win all season? It's been kind of missing on their resume. Can they actually go on the road and get something accomplished here? Does Kansas take care of business in Lawrence?
I think Kansas takes care of business. Bill Self's not going to let them drop this one. They still have an outside shot at winning the Big 12 here with a win and some help from Baylor, but they are just an incredible offense. And you wouldn't know it looking at the last game, but Texas struggles on the road. Like defensively, offensively, they just can't find it. I know Texas won the previous matchup, and it was a rather back and forth game, but Timmy Allen had a great game, scored 24, but the next leading scorer was Trey Mitchell, who's no longer with the team. So that opens up a lot of different things. Like, is anybody going to step up? And I don't see it happening on the road with Texas having somebody else step up. I think Abaji gets it going. I think Brown gets it going, and McCormick and Lightfoot, if they have any kind of a decent game, Texas really can't handle that. They don't have the size. And Kansas has the athleticism to make Timmy Allen work. I still think he has a good game, but if you can make him just a little bit inefficient, this Texas team kind of falls apart, even at home, because their offense just isn't that good. I think Kansas has got the three shooting, got everything they need to win this by double digits. I think they do it. If they don't, we need to start questioning whether this Kansas team can make a run in the tournament.
Yeah, we were talking recently about how good Kansas is. One week ago, heading to that Baylor game, we're talking about, hey, why are you sleeping on Kansas? I know we're tired of Kansas because but this team's really good. And then, you can kind of excuse the Baylor one. Baylor, revenge game at home, kind of figuring out their new system with kind of, at times going kind of five guards, I guess you call, what you call Sohan, if you call them a three or whatever, but I mean, really small lineup, right? And only one big guy that they can use. So you can write that one off. But then those two performances against TCU, and maybe TCU is not a great matchup for them. I don't know. I'm not ready to make judgment yet, but kind of like you said, like if they don't get it done here, at some point you can't write these things off, right?
Yeah.
If they get it done here, maybe just TCU's a bad matchup, right? You're not that concerned. Let's see how they do in the tournament, but they need to really right the ship here. I think you're right. I think Texas has really struggled on the road. To me, this feels like a game where Texas has that stretch where their offense disappears. Kansas gets a few too many points, and then Texas has to play catch up. They have to play a little faster than they want to play. That's not their recipe for success. And so I think that's going to get the points up, and it's just going to mean they'll just be chasing all game. And I just don't think they'll be able to catch as good of an offense as Kansas has. I don't think they'll be able to catch them.
Yeah, I think this is a major game for seeding impact. Like for Texas, like if Texas wins, it's a big game for them, bumps them up. I think if Kansas wins, it doesn't really help them too much, but a loss hurts them.
Yeah.
Like it could be the reason they drop and get in a terrible bracket for a 2 seed or maybe even to a 3 seed, depending on what else goes on and what they do in the Big 12 tournament. So it's a very important game in those standards too.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of games that are important for seeding and for other things, right? North Carolina at Duke, 4 p.m. Central. Coach K's last home game. A lot has been made about that. I'm sure the players are unaware. They have no idea what's happening. Yeah, the fans won't know what's happening. It's no one's talking about this, right?
Yeah, no.
The total on this one's 153.5. I'm taking the over. It's a large number. The model thinks it should be 155. I don't know if North Carolina can hang in there, but when I think about the two ways this game goes, I think, A, North Carolina hangs in there. And if they do, how are they going to do it? Well, they want to play fast. If North Carolina hangs in, it's because they're going fast, they're scoring. Thus, this game probably gets in the 160s. If they don't, given that this is Coach K's last home game, I kind of feel like Duke's just going to keep scoring and try to put 90 up on him. So I think we got a lot of ways this game goes over. Obviously, we think Duke will win. The only question is, can they win by more than 11? Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, I'm obviously wearing my Duke stuff, so this is take it with a grain of salt. But I really think this is a terrible matchup for Carolina, especially with. And I don't think the coach quite understands. Like Hubert Davis, I don't think he quite understands his team. He wants to play fast, but that takes their best player out of the game with Baycott, and that just doesn't work well. And especially against a team that's as long and athletic as Duke is. North Carolina's got some shorter guards, and that doesn't work well against Trevor Kills and Wendell Moore and AJ Griffin. And that lineup, when they have those three with Mark Williams and Paulo Blanchero, is just a killer lineup. There's not much anybody can do when those five are playing together because of how long athletic they are. Mark Williams has been such an incredible surprise this year, being able to play defense the way he is and offense. He's been really consistent. And Caleb Love and Leaky Black, they don't shoot well enough to keep them in. I think my opinion on this game, I think Duke gets it done in the second half, and I think it's mainly a second half for them because I think there's a lot. It's going to be hard to get all the extracurricular stuff going on, like Coach K. They've got game day there for 2 hours doing a whole show. We've got, I think, 170 to 80 ex-players showing up. There's just going to be a lot of that going on. They might start off a little sluggish and keep North Carolina in it, and I think that spells good for the over because the longer North Carolina's in it, the more points are going up on the board.
Yeah.
So I really think this is a Duke second half runs away with it kind of deal, but I think they get it done.
Yeah, and you mentioned that's the anytime you make a play, right? Obviously, it's your money, people. You could fire away at will, but it's never a bad idea to look through how does this bet win, how does this bet lose. The way this bet loses is Duke comes out hot
Yeah,
and then slows the game down. If Duke's up, 25-7,
yeah, like the
at
first
the
game.
at yeah. If it plays out like that, they're up like a 25-7 or something at the under 12 timeout. We're going to be really needing North Carolina to come back and come back quickly because that's going to be the bad scenario. But any way that North Carolina hangs in there and doesn't get blown out until the end is going to be good for the over. My numbers haven't done too well fading Duke, so the numbers kind of like North Carolina here, but I don't know if I trust that very much given how they've struggled with Duke. So, like I said, I think the over is a safer play from my end. Jake, you like Duke to cover that one. Dropping down to the evening time slot, 7:30 Central Time, Boise State at Colorado State. I'm taking over again, over 133 and a half. I'm a broken record, I know. The model makes this 136 and a half. Both of these have been under teams this year, but I'll point out that Valparaiso has been an over team all season. I took the under on them here on Friday, and that went under. Sometimes the number catches up, and you got to play the other way. So we want to you want to look at the trends, but the reason that I made the model was to help me understand when I think and when the math thinks that the trend is going to continue and when the number has overreacted and when there's been underreactions. And so in this case, yes, both teams have been under teams, but I think this number is too low. Colorado State has a pretty good offense, and I think that is enough to get this game over the total. Jake, can Colorado State win by more than 3?
Yeah, I think they do. Boise State's not got much to play for here. They've got that first seed locked up. Colorado has something to play for. They can drop to third, maybe even fourth, depending on how tiebreakers work. But with a win, they lock up second. So it's an important one to them. They already beat Boise, but they beat them in Boise in overtime, and I think it was by about 7 or so. Colorado State's 13-1 at home. They play very well at home. Boise State really doesn't have a matchup for Roddy, and not that many people do, but I think he really gets it going. Some of your lesser players like Stevenson and I forget the guys' names, but they start getting some threes going in. The big guy gets going. I really think Colorado State's going to run away with this one because I don't know that Boise State's really going to be out there. They don't really have much reason to win other than to win the game. Like, it's not like they're battling for something. They just really want to get through this one, get to the tournament, and hopefully stamp being in.
Yep. And the Mountain West has been a lot of fun, so I encourage y'all to catch this game. The Mountain West reminds me of because the Mountain West was down a couple of years ago or last year. Remember what it was? So it kind of reminds me of the Atlantic 10, what that was a few years ago, right? The Atlantic 10 a couple of years ago was a fun league. 4 or 5 teams going to make it, that sort of thing. Any of them could make a deep run, And this year the A10's kind of down, they've kind of flipped now. The Mountain West is that one where 4 or 5 teams going to make this, and I think any of them can make a run and surprise some people there. They've got some teams with some specific strengths, efficiency-wise, some interesting quirks, pace-wise that might throw some teams off. So, I mean, any of these teams could be very dangerous. None of them are vanilla teams that are just average, solid teams that are going to get beat by better teams. They all do something that could spring an upset. So Mountain West is a lot of fun. If you haven't watched much of them, you got a good opportunity here to catch that before the tournament starts. And then we've got the late game, 9 p.m. Central Time, USC at UCLA. UCLA is a 7-point favorite, total of 134.5. Going over again, the model thinks 138.5 is a better number. The model's 11-4 and all total edges for UCLA this season. This one's an interesting one because I think we know exactly what we're going to get from this total. These two teams play at the exact same pace. Nobody's speeding anybody up. Nobody's slowing anybody down. They both have better offenses and defenses. UCLA's is more extreme. UCLA has a better offense and a better defense than USC. Hence why they're favored. But in general, I mean, overs have been good lately, other than once we get into these conference tournament games, which again, that's coming down now with tournament play being a little bit different. I think soaking the overs while you can, people, because I think it's going to start flipping here. It's already started to flip a little bit with some of the conference tournament games. So get one last good over in here. I think both offenses are just too good. I think this game gets close up into the 140s. Jake, can UCLA cover 7 points at home?
Yeah, I think they do. It's a great way to end your night. Should be a good game, good battle. I think USC is a little too Mobley dependent, and they've got the wrong Mobley for that to still work. UCLA has got four really good offensive options and a fifth and a sixth that are fairly decent, and I think will show up at home. Between Jaime Jaquez, Tiger Campbell, and Jules Bernard, and Kentucky transfer, I just forgot his name. Johnny Juzang. Those are a really four deadly combo there, and I don't think USC has anything to really fight against it. Boogie Ellis hasn't been the offensive guy they thought he was going to be when he transferred in from Memphis, and so I just don't think they've got enough to keep this under double digits. I think it'll be close, and then towards the end of the second half, under that 10-minute mark, UCLA will start stretching it out, and they'll get to 10 to 15 and hang around right in there.
All right, that makes sense. And this one's numbers moved around a little bit. I saw 8.5, so when it opened at 8.5, UCLA is a whole lot more exciting. A whole lot more exciting to back them at 8.5 than at 7. 7 we talk about being a key number, so just keep an eye on that number. Depending on when you're watching this, that number is back up to 8.5. It's a little bit tougher there. You never know how fouls are going to play out. If that number keeps dropping, you got to like UCLA even more if the number comes down below that, because this is definitely a situation where they're fouling. And you want every point in your pocket. You never know who's going to hit and miss free throws there.
Yeah.
Which takes us to our solo Jake segments. We actually got a game this time. Yesterday, we talked just about some interesting matchups. But today we're back with a game here, another one that I don't really have a great edge on either direction. I think it should be a fascinating matchup, but one the model doesn't really love. So, Jake, I'm going to let you have this one. You're 15-3. And 1 all-time in this segment. Again, fantastic record. Hats off to you. Let's see if you can keep that going here. 1 p.m. Central, Kentucky, 4.5-point road favorite at Florida. Can they get it done on the road?
Yeah, I think they do. They've got both guards coming back. Severe Wheeler and Ty Washington are coming back. They played the last couple of games, but I think this is the first game they really get back to where they were beforehand. And the guards for Florida are just not good enough in this one. Between Davion Mintz and Kellen Grady and everybody else on that Kentucky team who's just long and athletic, I don't think Florida's got it. Castleton is really good. He might have a good game. It kind of depends on how the game's being called, because he's not very physical, and Shigwe and Toppin can be extremely physical if the refs let him get away with it. So depending on how this one's called, he will either be non-existent and just bullied out, or he'll have a pretty good game. But it really just comes down to the guard play. If Kentucky's threes are going in, there's no chance Florida it stays under double digits for this. But even if that's not, I really don't see them getting in the way of Severe Wheeler and Ty Washington, and it's just going to be. This one leans more to me towards a bloodbath, and I don't think Kentucky's getting favored by enough in this one.
All right. And that takes us to our overtime A plays for the week. 7-7. We had one play Friday. Eastern Michigan couldn't quite cover for us. They were down 8. I think they were down even less than 5 or 6 late. Fouls got away. They took some really bad shots there and couldn't quite cover the big number for us. So looking to get back above 500 here with a bunch of A plays on a Saturday as usual. I got 10 of them for you. One of them that I like more than the other. So I'm going to start off with the other 9. 11:30 a.m. Central Time, Louisiana, plus 5.5 versus Texas State. I think this is a toss-up game. Take the point, just because in these conference tournament games, as we've kind of seen, you never really know what's going to happen. So I think there's some value there with the points.
Yeah, most of these conference tournament games are going to get close. They're not going to be spread out. I really like taking the points here.
Yeah. Noon Central Time at Fairfield, plus 7.5 at St. Peter's. Regular season game here. I'm calling this the Trust the Process special. I'm 1-1 in this gimmick here on Saturdays. I'm saying trust the process because the model's 0-6 fading St. Peter's. I have not faded them correctly once this year. I'm going to give it one last try on our last regular season Saturday of the season.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's been really tough getting a hold of the St. Peter's team. As long as Fairfield doesn't turn the ball over like crazy, I think they stay within the number.
All right, 1 p.m. Central, North Carolina State plus 7.5 at Florida State. I'm going back to the well-fading Florida State. They surprised Jake and I earlier this week. They beat Notre Dame. I think it's two good showings in a row for them. Florida State's the better team. I'm just not ready to give them that much respect. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. Again, credit to Florida State with the way they played these last couple games. But I just think the market's overcorrecting, and I don't think they're that much better than NC State.
Yeah, they're getting a little healthier, so it'll be interesting to see how the Florida State team, if they get back to where they were at the beginning, or if they're still kind of figuring that out, if the guys are 100% or not.
Yep, absolutely great point. Also at 1 p.m. Central, I'm taking Florida International plus 11.5 at Florida Atlantic. It's a lot of points. Florida Atlantic wins. I think they're up 10 late. No need to foul. Florida Atlantic wins by 10. We cover 11.5.
Yeah, that's probably exactly how that game goes.
2 p.m. Central, Rice minus 2.5 at UTSA. Hey, Rice got it done for us Thursday. I'm going back to the well. I think Rice can get it done on the road. It's a short number. I think they can cover that.
Yeah, Rice got it done, and they actually should have won that game. I don't know why they let that go. So I'm backing them here too. I like this a lot.
All right, 3 p.m. Central, Monmouth 1.5 point favorite at Ryder. Models 5-2 backing Monmouth this season. I think they're the much better team. I think they can get us a road win just like Rice does an hour before them.
Yeah, I'm surprised this line was as small as it was. Monmouth is a much better team. Been fun backing them. We've been able to ride them to the window quite a bit here.
Yep. Also, 3 p.m. Central, I'm taking Seattle. I'm laying 16.5 points against Chicago State. I'm 6-0-1 backing Seattle. The reason this isn't the A-plus play of the day is simply because that's just a big number. We do fade Chicago State a lot at 7-6 in the year. We did fade Chicago State against Cal Baptist earlier this week. I believe they covered that number by 1. So with these big numbers, that's obviously the fear that you have. But Seattle has been so good to us. They haven't gotten respect all year. I still don't think the numbers caught up. I think they're better than people realize. So I like Seattle to win running away Saturday afternoon here.
Yeah, Seattle at home is good. Chicago State's either traveled a crazy amount this week or they've not been home yet, and I don't think that's a good recipe to go into Seattle, who shoots the ball like really well at home. I think they cover this one fairly easy.
Yep. At night, we've got 6:30 Central. Oregon State plus 9.5 at Washington. We've dogged on Oregon State a little bit this year. They've been a letdown, but you play numbers, not teams, not names, right? And their offense, I think, is good enough to hang in against the mediocre defense. I don't think they win at Washington, but I think if you're giving me 9.5 points, I think there's a lot of ways we win that. There are a couple ways we lose it with late fouls, but I think there's more ways we win this one than lose this one. So I think a lot of value here with 9.5 points.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Washington reacts after beating Oregon. Do they keep playing like they did there, or do they get a little happy and play a little sloppy and let Oregon State stay in it?
And it's a good point. Washington's been that up and down team all season, right? Every time you think that they're going to do something good and get a little bit rolling, they disappoint. Kind of like Oregon, kind of like half the Pac-12's been. So it's a little bit unpredictable what's going to happen with some of these Pac-12 teams. You know, like you said, can they keep that good play going or not? I think it's just a little bit too much respect for them in that spot. And then 8 p.m. Central, Utah Valley plus 8 at New Mexico State. I'm calling this the trust the process special number 2. I've been very mediocre, not very good fading New Mexico State, faded them a lot. I'm trusting the numbers. I think they're getting too much respect. Again, I like the number at 8. If it gets down to 7, 6.5, I don't like the number there. I just think there's an extra few percentage points of probability that we're gaining here at the number of 8. Hopefully Utah Valley doesn't do a stupid foul late and cost us this one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they can see how they handle this New Mexico State offense. There's pretty good at times, but can disappear often also.
Yep. And then the A-plus play of the day, all-time 19-13-1. It's been doing pretty well with these lately. 1:30 p.m. Central. I'm taking VMI plus 6 versus Wofford. We're 9-1 backing VMI. We've liked them all year, and they've done pretty well for us. 3-1 fading Wofford. I think there's a lot to like here. I think VMI might actually win this game. If not, I think they can keep it close here against Wofford.
Yeah, this VMI team is underrated. I mean, it's hard to say with teams that are not going to make the tournament, not going to sniff it. But the number isn't respecting them enough. This Wofford team's been kind of disappointing this year. I think they get this one done. I think they do stand a good chance of winning it, but I'm not confident enough to call that yet. But I like the plus 6.
Yeah, I like the +6 maybe on that one if you want to put a tiny bit on the money line just to see. Not a bad idea, but I think the +6 has got a lot of value there in a game that should be a tight one in the afternoon. And then I will turn it over to you for your buzzer beaters, Jake.
Yeah, I'm taking Missouri over Georgia. They've got, I think they at home they're going to cover the 7 fairly easy. Especially Georgia has been a terrible team all year. Rumors flying around about Tom Crean if he's still going to be there. They've got assistant coaches fighting other employees at the place at halftime. I don't
Is that
see.
bad?
Yeah, I don't see their head being in it. I think they just want to get out of this season and transfer out and do whatever they need to do. Wait for the new coach. So I think Missouri gets this one done. Um, I like this Western Kentucky team to cover 10.5 versus Marshall. This Western Kentucky team is dangerous. Like they can be very, very good on any given night. And going into this tournament, there's something to watch out for if they sneak their way in. So this Western Kentucky team is really one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Marshall's been a little bit of a disappointment. I think they've underperformed my numbers on the season by over 4 points per game, which is kind of to the end of the distribution there. There's not many teams that have underperformed my numbers as much as Marshall has. So something to note there.
Yeah.
And that's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. A reminder, check out that Google Sheet for picks on all of today's games not covered in this show. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button to get a new episode every weekday and Saturdays during the college basketball season, dropped right into your feed. Best of luck this weekend. We'll see you Monday. Until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.